A career is wonderful, but you can't curl up with it on a cold night. Even with my lack of experience with anything medical related, Short Staff had reassured me I'd done a good job, though I think in truth he just wanted to say something optimistic. I don't know why or how this Pegasus was still alive with these wounds. The sheer sneer Proteus had across his muzzle from the sight was something I might pry into later, but as Short Staff cleared up, he had my attention. He's lucky he still had that set of towels in the wagon. He spoke up with a sigh, levitating a rusty pair of shears into his medical bag. Wetting them with a potion is a handy trick if you don't have much in the way of healing supplies, but it's only helping on the surface. He glanced over at me with a sad look. Wounds like his are probably just still bleeding on the inside. He needs a doctor. Can't Pala just fly him? I asked. She used to fly me around town all the time when I was young, and Pegasi are supposed to be fairly light ponies. Even if it was too heavy for her, we still have another solution. Or maybe Iron Will can carry him. Shortstaff shook his head. The trip would be too rough on him. He needs to lay flat and not be jostled, or his internal injuries could only get worse. His magic lifted his magical bag onto his back as the straps snaked around him and collapsed together. It's going to be tough. But if we push through the night, we might make it to Dodge just after sunrise. Pala swooped down from the air, her flared wings pushing away some of the black smoke trailing above us. You really think Stimpack is the best choice to work on an Enclave soldier? She cringed, having every right to. Stimpack used to be a Steel Ranger, and I say used to be because he has a bit of a booze problem. Turns out that when he's drunk, which is now every moment he's conscious, he turns into a bit of an Earth pony supremacist. Granted, I'm fine without wings or a horn. I think the only thing any pony should care about here is if another pony has a gun on their hoof or caps to their name. I know he's not ideal, but I only know of enough to prevent him from dying at this moment. 1, 2 hours from now, who knows? He pressed his forehoof to his temple. Just get him over to the wagon, and gently. I have to dump some things to make room. He quickly ducked away, leaving me to look to Proteus, who didn't seem too thrilled with this idea either. His horn lit up, and he gave a soft grunt as his magic enveloped the stallion's body with a dim aura and slowly lifted him up. The injured Pegasus was swung over onto my back and gently laid down, the bloody bandages pressing into my jacket, feeling oddly warm through the old leather. I could feel the rise and fall of his chest, the weak, shallow breaths, the only sign of any life to him. Yet again, the thought ran through my mind as the question as to why we had bothered to save him at all. Small, soft steps were all I wanted to take as I slowly turned and started forward, being careful not to let his body move too much. Proteus kept his head down, his horn at the ready in case the stallion started to slip. In only a matter of what the pip-buck said was 5 minutes, we had managed to get him the 100 feet or so to the wagon, and I only let him slip twice. From there, both Proteus and Shortstaff lifted him from me and set him along the now cleared side of the wagon. I could finally breathe a sigh of relief as his weight was off my shoulders. Storm, give me your jacket. Shortstaff extended his hoof expectantly. Fuck that! I can't just give over the one thing that's kept me alive as long as I've had it. It's one thing that I won't give up to any pony. Not without a damn good reason. I'm not giving you my jacket so some random pony who's just going to die in it. I need it in case we get shot at. I don't care. You'll die of hypothermia without it. And I don't plan on letting some random pony die if I can help it. He closed his eyes and sat down, taking a deep breath. I understand your concern, but he will make it if you just hoof over the damned coat. It'll be too dark soon to see, and as you have the darkest coat of all of us, you are the least at risk for being spotted regardless. Fine, I grumbled, taking it off and glancing over the pony who would just bloody it up soon. I blinked in confusion as a pair of half-lidded, deep blue eyes stared back at me. The look the stallion gave I'd seen before many times in bars, and came with just the ghost of a smile before he flopped his head back down. I let out a grunt as Shortstaff lifted the jacket away from me and wrapped it as best he could around the Pegasus. "All right." Shortstaff cleared his throat and spoke up. "Now, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so make sure you've got everything you need, and let's go get this journey on hoof. Once we get started, we're not stopping till Dodge. Got that?" I'll admit, I'd wanted nothing more than to leave that cramped, confined facility and just run my legs off in the openness of outside. But this was not what I had in mind. The sun had fallen, and the darkness around us was only partially by the cone of light given off by Shortstaff as he led us along the old highway system. My vest and light shirt I was wearing didn't do much to stave off the cold winter air, and the resentment I had for giving away my coat only grew as I slowly froze. We'd taken a turn along the highway, which led up to a small pre-war highway patrol building I knew from my travels. It sat perched on top of the only hill around for miles, and I had always wondered why the ponies back then didn't just build it to run around instead of directly over it. The blessing of this was that it was on the incline, and the weight of the cart meant that the Brahmin had to slow down, so we all used it as a quick chance to catch our breath. All but Prettiest, though, who seemed too lost in thought to care about taking deep breaths. "Hey, can I ask you something?" I had something on my mind since the crash that I needed to get out and to stay focused. "What were you looking for in that wreck?" "Why do you care?" He snapped at me, seeming to take a moment before his gaze softened slightly. "You asked me all kinds of questions earlier. Why can't I ask a few?" I could feel my lungs starting to burn less, and my heart ceasing thumping against my ribs, trying to escape. I just want to go back to walking in the empty wastes again, no more running or enclosed spaces. "If you must know, I was looking for the flight recorder." He looked at me and scoffed when I obviously didn't know why the hell he would do that. It would tell us why the Vertibuck crashed. Ignoring the fact that he didn't even sound winded. "Back up 1 second. Do you know what that thing was?" I must have sounded extra stupid to him this time, seeing as he banged his hoof angrily on his head. "Let me guess, you read about them." "It's not my damn fault I don't sit inside libraries all day reading books and getting bounties placed on me." "Sometimes I wonder how you know so little," he grumbled out. Oh yeah, he was pissed. But it's his own damn fault for expecting more of me. Moving on. The odd thing was that it didn't have one. It lay nowhere among the wreckage. "Well, yeah, you saw the state of the wreck." I could finally speak normally again, which was something I could tell Prettiest didn't appreciate. I wouldn't be surprised if there was nothing but metal ribbons by now. A vision flicked from green to pink as Pi popped up. "Ooh, I know something!" She changed everything to purple and pulled out her bubble pipe. "It is highly unlikely to have been destroyed, as they were built out of a special alloy that happened to have made them near indestructible. It is likely that you simply missed it when you were looking, or that it was buried in another piece of the wreckage that you didn't check." No, I found the mounting rack for it completely intact. Prettiest looked to me and shook his head. It wasn't broken or somewhere else in the wreck, but just, well, gone. The high-pitched whine came through the air, just loud enough we both perked our ears, and it sounded similar enough that I wanted to get the head start towards the wagon, in case we needed to hide under it again. I have a bad feeling about this. I looked back and could see quite a few lights traveling quickly across the sky and perpendicular to us. A bright spotlight ran along the desert floor from the one in the center of them. The quick flutter of wings startled me as Pallet dropped down, her white mane the only part of her standing out against the darkness. "We've got company. Enclave patrol, so just act cool and let Shortstaff and I handle it." She trotted past us, Shortstaff hanging next to a Brahmin, as a faint light swept over us. I've only caught glimpses of their armor before, but seeing as 3 bug-eyed carapaces and scorpion-tailed ponies land in front of us, it was almost otherworldly. "Hold it there!" A white-coated mare's muzzle was the only part of her we could see, but it didn't sound like she was happy to be here. "Don't see many of you muckrackers traveling at nighttime. Why would that be? You wouldn't happen to be sheltering any Pegasi, would you?" A bright light flickered on from the inside of her helmet, and she stared down Shortstaff. "Why do you care?" Shortstaff pointed his hoof at them. "Our friend is sick and needs a doctor, so would you kindly move and let us by?" He waved his hoof at them, slowing down, but they didn't seem to be buying it. "He's got the feather flu." He shouted his bluff loud enough that I had to resist face-hoofing, feeling it hard not to emote from that level of stupidity. Surprisingly, the other Pegasi with the mare took a step back and looked at each other. "The feather flu, huh?" The mare didn't sound convinced. "Only Pegasi can catch that from other Pegasi. So tell me again how that helps your case." "He caught it from me." Pallet stepped forward, being lit up as the mare turned her attention to her. "He's my husband, and I won't let you hold us back." I watched her lift her wings slowly, uncovering the high-powered guns on her saddle for them to see. "Well, well, unbranded Pegasus. Tell me your name." The armored mare held her hoof out. An odd terminal-like screen sat with a line across it. The thin line wavered as Pallet spoke in a raised voice. "My name's Pallet Jack. Raised in Manhattan. Never been above." She cleared her throat. "That should be enough for a sample for you?" The mare in charge pulled her hoof back and stared at the screen, only looking up when there was a small beep. "All right, you check out." "Yeah, she may." A stallion with a blue coat spoke up, nudging the mare in charge. "But come on, Tail. Where the hell would she get tech like that, then?" "Cloud Streaker's right, Sarge. If she hasn't, it's something only a deserter would have taken with them." He scoffed at Pallet. "Cunt probably does a favor by killing them for it, too. Fucking dirtbirds. You're all the same." As he spoke, my hoof strained as I felt the need to face-hoof again, but I resisted and bit my lip, waiting for Pallet's response. "Fine. Don't believe me. It's interesting you've seen this design before, when what you should know is that they are custom-built to run off of balefire egg energy." Pallet sounded colder than the night was, and it was scary. Scary enough that the third Pegasus took a step back. "Now that I have your attention, you'd better hope you dust me with a shot, because if you don't, I can overload them, and we can all find out what it's like to feel to be cooked alive." She leaned herself closer a bit, only stopping when the second Pegasus stepped back as well. "We don't care, whatever you're looking for. So just let us save my husband, and no pony has to be vaporized tonight." "Forget them, Hale. You said they checked out." Cloud Streaker spoke up, tapping her with an armored wing to bring out a grunt from her. "Let's just go." There was a moment of silence as they all stood there. "I don't get paid enough for this shit. Let's wrap it up and get back. There's nothing that the dirtball land's worth dying for." The mare spoke up and flared her wings. "If I found out you lied, I'm going to hunt down each one of you like nothings you've ever seen before." She spat out and flapped hard, swiftly taking to the air with the others and disappearing into the dark night skies. Shortstaff let out a breath, big enough for us all to see, as we hesitantly started forward again. "Thanks for covering for me, Pallet. I kind of panicked there if you couldn't tell." He gave a nervous chuckle as I looked back to Pretius, finding that he didn't seem to be paying attention to anything again. Shortstaff swung his spell over to Pallet. "I didn't know that's how they worked. You'll have to explain it better sometime. I didn't think things like that were even possible." "They aren't." Pallet smiled and pat her wings against her guns. "I just made that shit up. Only Harmony was ever smart enough to figure these things out." That was it. I couldn't hold back any longer. I face-hoofed hard enough that I saw stars, but it was worth it, as that painful expression was now a valid explanation for my life. It was apparently enough that Pretius wore a small smile when I shook my head clear. He whispered to me as his grin grew. "Now you know how I feel around you." "You're an asshole, you know that?" I grumbled and pressed on again, focusing myself on the fact that we were almost at the top of the hill. "Hey, Storm, you got a minute?" Pallet called from the front. The old cart creaked heavily as it started to roll again, and in the dim light from Shortstaff's horn I could see that our Pegasus patient hadn't moved since he looked up at me before. I trod up the hill and alongside her with a smile. "Yeah, what's up?" "You get around, so you might know." She scrunched up her muzzle as she spoke. "Have you ever seen a patrol like that before?" What she asked struck me as odd. I shook my head and watched as she looked back nervously at the cart. "'Cause we've obviously got some pony important back there. I've seen Enclave accidents before, but they never sent out a search party." I found it odd too. Pretius spoke as he came up from behind. That crash didn't make any sense. He nodded to the cart as well. "I'm thinking we've got our hooves on a pony that some pony needs. He could be a VIP or a criminal. Who knows? But they want him bad." We reached the top of the hill, slowly leveling out as Shortstaff killed his light spell. "Every pony quiet!" he snapped at a whisper. We all shut our muzzles tightly, turning our gaze towards the front of us, just as the shadow of the ruins of old police building outlined the slightly lighter skies. From inside the interior windows there was a faint glowing that shifted and moved. None of us moved as the glowing face of a raggedy-looking ghoul stopped slack-jawed in front of the window, looking out with dead, unfocused eyes. "No pony move," Pretius whispered. The glowing one turned and shambled slowly from the window, his glowing body revealing a mass of the other half, rotten faces, and shredded corpses. As I remembered to look down at my EFS, a thought jumped to the back of my mind, as I really needed to keep tabs on it more often, seeing as it was flooded with red bars. Shortstaff clicked his tongue to get our attention, and ever so slowly we crept forward. All eyes were on the station as we moved at a snail's pace, trying our best to put one hoof in front of the other as quietly as possible. We were doing well so far, but after only a minute, we had only moved maybe 20 feet. I was starting to think that if one of us ran back down the hill, maybe we could get those Pegasi to come back and lend us a hoof in exchange for their friend. More than likely, they would just take him and leave us to die. My ears perked as I heard a mechanical pounding sound, going closer. The thought that Iron Will had been following us slipped my mind, as he'd fallen behind when we were running. I prayed to the goddesses that he would still be quiet enough, that the ghouls wouldn't notice, but the closer he got, the more his hydraulics started to sound like artillery shells going off. "Storm, open your satchels." Pretius stepped up and whispered into my ear. "No! Fuck you!" I snapped back as low as I could. What I did end up doing was hoofing my rifle out, frowning when the pip buck told me that it was empty. I was sure that I had a few rounds lying in my bag, but I couldn't see a thing in the dark, and didn't want to risk having Shortstaff use his light spell. The stomping continued as Iron Will crested the top of the hill. Between his stomps, I could hear the vicious yips and growls of the ghouls in the station. The glowing face of the one we had seen before appeared again, before letting out a piercing shriek. It was no use sneaking now. "Storm, you wanted me to be useful, and I can be." Pretius spoke in a normal voice now, knowing just how screwed we were. "Just open your damn satchel!" There was a loud bang against the front door of the station. A thick chain was the only thing keeping it shut as the ghouls inside piled themselves against it. "Fine!" I screamed out and hoofed it open. "But I swear, if you don't fucking—" I had to cut myself off as he drew out the minigun I had taken from him in Ponyville. If I'd remembered that I had that thing back in the facility, maybe I wouldn't have used so much of my rifle ammo. As he checked the minigun, I struck my hoof in my bag, in my satchel, and wiggled it around, feeling as a pair of brass objects on my hoof. I pulled them out, feeling the 2 rounds for my gun, and gave a frown. The sharp sound of shattering glass drew our attention as the glowing ghoul rammed itself through the window, spilling out onto the dirt with a howl. Several more windows followed as the dark shape of ghouls pushed through them as well. "Better than nothing," Proteus commented smartly as his magic levitated the gun up, his horn casting out a light spell identical to Shortstaff's. The door to the station went down as Proteus's gun spun up. The deafening drone of it made me cringe. As it fired at a blistering speed, what looked like a sharp yellow line connected him to the ghouls, who were systematically cut to shreds as they poured out. Just seconds after he started firing, the gun gave a ratcheting click as it spun down. He dumped the slightly glowing weapon on the ground and shrugged. He had to yell to get over the ringing in my ears. "Out of ammo!" The high-pitched reports of Pallet's rifles were followed by the gory explosions of meat with each hit. The heavy blast from the boxy shotgun Shortstaff had in his levitation quickly took down any of the ghouls who got close to us. I looked down as I fumbled, trying to get the round into my gun, finally slipping them in and working the action, as the sound of iron will next to me preceded the sickening snap and crunching of bones. The twisted body of a ghoul dipped into the dirt before me, and it got quiet. I pulled my rifle up, and for a long minute there was nothing. Every pony all right?" Shortstaff called out, swinging his light spell around towards me. "Yeah, we are," Proteus said as he leaned close to me. "So, how many did you get? None? That's a shame." His smug muzzle was begging to be hit. "Seems like I'm not your useless one anymore." Picking up the minigun in his magic, he set it inside of Shortstaff's cart. "Oh, and before you say something about how you would have been useful, I thought you'd learned that rubber bullets weren't effective against them." I glanced at the display in my vision, indeed reading the ammo type as RBR. I grit my teeth and hoisted my gun at him, quickly firing off a shot that hit him in the chest and knocked the wind out of him. "I thought you would know that it's not smart to point that sort of thing out after antagonizing a mare like me." I reslung my rifle as he gasped for breath. I felt a hoof pull me around, spinning me to face with Pallet. "Storm, what are you doing?" Her eyes darted to Proteus, then back to me. "What good does hurting him do?" I shrugged her hoof off me and pushed against her. "I need him alive for the contract. Nothing more. Now let's go. We're wasting time. I'm ready to be done with this fucking contract." It was getting colder the more we ran, and more than a few times we had to stop because some pony slipped on a patch of ice. I had my fair share of bruises alongside every pony else, but they all seemed to have no real problem with the cold. Shortstaff seemed naturally insulated, but it might be something family-related from the stories I've heard. Pegasi are more resistant to the element than any other type of pony, so Pallet was fine. Proteus had to be as cold as I was, but I'm pretty sure that he just didn't feel like showing that to me as he ran silently beside me. Everything was going smoothly, though. That is, up until I slipped again. "Ah!" I yelped at the moment before slamming my muzzle into the ground. I found my rear legs lifting into the air, with the added drag on the ground as my chest provided, and flipping me over and flopping onto the dirt. I groaned and let out a few coughs as my scraped-up chest ebbed. Fuck, that stung. As if sensing I was vulnerable, the cold attacked, biting at my skin hard all over, and I dissolved into heavy shivers on the ground. The cart slowly pulled to a stop, and the others came over to me. The light spell Shortstaff was casting swung to me. The sharp, cold air took no prisoners, and in a moment they were shivering as much as I would. Fuck, that's cold. Pallet stuttered as she spoke, but I couldn't blame her. She looked toward Shortstaff pleadingly. Maybe we should build a fire? Shortstaff turned to look at our passenger, finding that he wasn't shivering as badly as us. His horn... he nodded as his horn lit up. Yes. Hold on. His horn flared, and out of a small layer of underglow, bathing nearly everything in the back of the cart with his aura. He lifted out supplies and set them onto the dirt, leaving a large rolled-up object in the back. pallet. See if you can set up the cover. Shortstaff headed to the front of the cart when she nodded, his horn working to undo the bindings on Muriel and Martha. Pallet took off into the air, taking a large roll from the bed of the wagon and lifting it higher up. Only when she was a few feet above and to the side of the cart, she moved her grip to one end of it, and the object sprung to life with a mechanical clang. A boxy cloth tent opened itself, the stately-looking warm purple of the fabric expanding out to the shape of a larger-than-expected tent. And though it was hard to spot in the dark, it looked like it had a balcony on it. Without waiting for an invitation, both Preetius and I darted inside, in the misguided hope that it was the light breeze slowly chilling us to death. There was a point that it didn't work. I was happy to see the glow of Shortstaff's horn glow brighter as he came about the tent slowly. The flap lifting, and the injured stallion was levitated in and set down next to me as Muriel and Martha came in with them. Pallet entered, dumping a small wood bundle in the center of all of us, and backing away as Shortstaff tipped his horn to it. A soft glow emanated from the wood as he whined and focused on his spell. The flame flared up suddenly and startled us. A sharp zap emanated from his horn. He rubbed the blackened tip of his horn with a frown, scooting himself forward with the rest of us to get warm. Preetius glared at me across from the flames angrily, unnerving me to the point of breaking. What? I snapped back at him sharply. My sword is Celestia. If I could just rip his head off right now with my hooves, I would. You okay, Storm? Pallet shivered herself closer to me. The warmth of her body should give off wasn't there, and I felt numb all over. Why do you hate him? She wrapped her wing around me, using the ends of the feathers to turn my gaze away from Preetius and towards her. You never used to be so angry all the time, and I will want to storm back. Her words dropped into silence with a sad smile. My heart ached at what she said sunk in. Yeah, I tended to be an asshole sometimes, but she was right, that I'm not normally this hostile. How much he helped me when we were trapped in that facility was more than any pony else would have done. Yet he stayed. And since we left, I've been nothing but frustrated with him. I looked back to Preetius, who had shifted his own sad gaze towards the fire. As I sat thinking, the feeling of warmth slowly spreading across my coat as the fire started to do its job, I cleared my voice. Preetius. I watched as he slowly looked up, his face shifting towards anger the more he gazed at me. Even if he was just the job, I had to fix this. I'm sorry. His anger fell away, and he turned his gaze back to the fire. I'm sorry as well. For a moment he just sat there, but then I noticed a smile creep across his face. He caught my now puzzled look and shook his head with a shuddering laugh. No pony called me pretty in years. He shrugged. No pony I liked it anyway. See? Pallet leaned into me, the warmth quickly returning to our bodies. I knew you were a good pony. She gave me a smile that felt warm itself, and as she looked at me, I thought that she might kiss me. I fucking knew you were into mares. I gave her a smile of my own and a rough nudge. What? No! Pallet scrunched up her muzzle and blushed brighter than the fire. The great thing was that among my laughs, I could still tell that she wasn't shivering anymore. She stammered and looked about nervously. Like I told you before, I was just in the moment, that's all. Like how you were in the moment last Tuesday. Shortstaff rolled his eyes, holding his hooves out over the crackling fire. Back to what you said, about good ponies, that is. Preetius spoke up, pulling our attentions to him. At heart, we are all good ponies. He looked up to me, as if to deliver this one message over anything else he had said. However, that is only true until the moment that we realize that we only have to be good enough. He blinked and looked at the others. I'm grateful for the generosity you've shown to not only me, but the Pegasus you saved. Not many ponies in our age would have done as you have, and I consider it a rare trait to have. For once, something made sense, and for the first time in my life, I almost thought about canceling a contract. Almost. Chapter end. This is my simple religion. There is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart, is our temple. The philosophy is kindness. Quests finished, out of the freezer. Quest started, into the oven. Levels earned none, perks earned none.